Right, ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome. Welcome to the umpteenth meeting of the Friends of King Alfred Buses. I've no idea how many we've had, but it must be loads over nearly 40 years. You'll know it's nearly 40 years because we're celebrating it when? End of the month. Thank you very much. Yes, well, actually, yes. End of next month, isn't it? Yes, well done. You've got the right idea, so that's good. So, welcome everybody to St Faith's Parish Hall, which sort of has become our place of residence, but don't get too comfortable because we might be going to move. And the Christmas party will not be here this year. It will be at the Winchester Club in Worthy Lane, or just off Worthy Lane. So accessible to the railway station for those of you who come by train, which is about 3 of them. But anyway, got a bigger car park. It's got an enormous car park and better public transport links and all the rest of it. Anyway, but for tonight, and a bar. Some people. Anyway, yes. But for tonight we're here, and indeed when we have our meeting in September, that also will be here. And this has been a fine place to be. Those of you who've been around for a little longer than others will know that we used to meet at the St John's Ambulance HQ in Worthy Lane. That was a very good venue, actually, in many ways. But COVID did for that, and we've been stateless citizens ever since. So, and our thinking for 2026 is that there will be more in-person meetings. So, but tonight is about running day. And before we go any further, there are 2 things I need to do. One is to tell you that in the event of a fire, you can get out that way, or you can get out that way, okay? And you can follow me, because I'll be gone. That's for sure. And the toilets, all colours provided for, are just out of this door. And last time we did this, they were in free flow, if you remember, but we got them fixed, so it's perfectly all right now. You can go out there quite happily. The second thing we need to do is to welcome those people who have never been to one of these meetings before. And I think I'm right in saying there are 3 of you. And so we have Zach there in the corner, and we have Peter there, and we have Paul, who is somebody I've known for a long time and who joined the bus industry in 1973 as a conductor. And he has come along to see whether being a conductor for FoKAB is enough fun to be worth the effort. So we'll not sure yet. Exactly. Well, we'll see. But so he may go home tonight convinced, he may not. Well, I don't know. But anyway, so it's great to see you, and everybody else. I can't introduce everybody because otherwise we'll be here till about 9 o'clock doing that. So, but you're very, very welcome, and hopefully you will get the message that we are pretty informal and do what we can. So, as I say, tonight is about a running day. The kind of agenda for tonight is the usual. We start with the usual, what we might call parish notices, very, very suitable in the St Faith's Parish Hall. In other words, latest news and what we're up to, Friends of King Alfred Buses. And then I'm really, really good at eating and drinking, but I'm obviously not so good at delegating, because we delegated giving the presentation about running day to Nick Richardson, and he has delegated it back to me. So there you go, round the corner. He did actually create it, to be fair to him, but Nick Richardson now drives buses in Herefordshire, and as he does a 6-day week, he couldn't get back from a finish in Hereford at 5 to 5 tonight to get here for tonight. I thought that was a bit mean on his part, actually. But anyway, so we'll have to take what he's prepared for us and try and interpret it for you. So you're going to get an awful lot of me droning. So there we go. We know what a drone is, but that's something different. So, and clearly tonight is about the original King Alfred Running Day on, does anyone not know when it is? Hopefully you do. Bank Holiday Monday, 5th of May. Brilliant. It's going to be a wet day? No, exactly. It's not going to be a wet day. It is actually raining now. Amazingly, only the odd blob, but it is doing. What we don't want is any blobs at all, if we can avoid it, especially. So if you can do the power, thought business about the weather, that would be handy. I must say you've been pretty useless at it for the last couple of years. It's rained quite nicely, but there we go. Can't do anything about that. And then obviously we're, this agenda you see on the screen was put together by our inimitable secretary to the trustees, Catherine, down the front here, and she has very, very nicely put that we're going to offer this year. We're going to offer vouchers, as we have done in the past in several years, to anyone working for us to use at our various catering stalls. But we're not going to give you too much, so don't get too excited about it. But anyway, something is better than nothing, isn't it? Take what you can get. And then probably we'll take a break at that point, and we will then go on afterwards to talk about FoKAB 40, which is our celebration of 40 years of Friends of King Alfred Buses. I find it incredible that it is nearly, I'm just trying to think of another way of saying 40, 2 lots of 20 years since I put an advert, well, it would have been about an hour actually, I put an advert in the Hampshire Chronicle saying something about the buses and saying these buses will be scrapped if you don't come to a public meeting to deal with the whole subject. And 35 people did come. So, and anybody here from that meeting? Oh, Mr. Steve Hursthouse, yeah.
I was very little then.
Me? Well, I was very little then. I was. Yes, don't go into that. I think we just pass over all that. But anyway, yeah. So that meeting was absolutely seminal in that, first of all, that 35 people came, and secondly, that the decision was taken there and then to create a group, and we got a secretary, and we got a treasurer, and we got all organised, and we've never looked back really. So now we can count up to 40. Then just a reminder that on the 4th of May, the Sunday before Running Day, we got a preparation day, which happens in Home Farm in Broadlands. You don't get to see Lady Romsey, I'm afraid. If that turns you on or not, I don't know. Perhaps, anyway, but you do get to see lots of King Alfred buses, and we try and wash and clean and everything else and sort them out and get them ready. So, and it's one of these things of many hands make light work, yeah? So do come if you can, as it were. And of course, we're still looking for people to assist, particularly in the sort of general side of things. It's one thing to conduct a bus or to drive it, but the more people who are selling programs, who are just shepherding folk, who are helping people to enjoy their day by giving them information, the better it's going to be. And of course, we want to sell as many programs as we can. So that's all there. And if we're still alive at the end of that, we might talk a bit about the Olympic, because lots is happening on the Olympic. So it's a good moment to start our parish notices, isn't it? We might as well start with the Olympic, which is sitting down in New Chesel Works right now. And it's interesting, we had Terry Whiteman came to learn to drive the Bedford Val, and we took him in, or got him to take us into New Chesel Works. And looking at the wreck of 708, he was quite astounded, as I think everybody is when they first look at it. It's a pretty miserable presentation, isn't it? But as you know, we have decided we're going to fix it. And that means officially that we're going to restore it, I think is the word, not rebuild it, because it's got to be the same vehicle. But we know that when the previous team had a go at it, they pretty well rebuilt it, actually, didn't you? More or less. So it's going to happen again. Now, the days of us doing that sort of scale of job, frankly, are past. And so it is going to go to our friend Andrew Crockett in Scotland at the Scottish Vintage Bus Museum at Lathalmond. And he is going to effectively manage the process of reconstructing the vehicle. And so it will be off on its travels, thanks to Richard, at some point, sooner rather than later. But certainly within the next few weeks, it'll be heading north and going to start its new life, as it were. And we have the outline of a project that's going to be 3 years long and cost the inner end at least of £500,000. But in case you're getting depressed at that point, I can say that one way and another we have got 250,000 of that already committed, so it is good to go. We are going to start, and we will get some way before we ever raise anything else. So hopefully we will raise some more, and we're going to start the FoKAB 708 appeal very soon, and that's designed to be for the whole world, not just for us, because however generous you all are, and you are very generous, and I hope you all have ended up being quite a lot more generous by the end of tonight, one way and another. We've actually got you for the treasurer can stand at the door with his conductor's bag, can't he? So yes, absolutely, there's no back way out. Anyway, so we're kind of on the go with all of that, and there is an amazing step up, I suppose it is, that we've gained, which we didn't expect particularly to do, which started to come to light last October when, on a visit to the Midland Bus Museum at Withall, Malcolm Keeley stepped forward to me and said, Malcolm's been to many of our running days over the years, big number in the Midland Bus Museum, and he said, did you realise that a chap called John Seal, who worked, amongst other things, for Metro Camel Wayman at their Washwood Heath factory, did you realise that he managed to rescue all the drawings from the MCW bodyworks, or about 2,000 of them anyway, and we have them all at the Midland Bus Museum. And we're just about to give them to the bus archive. So we got into conversation with the bus archive, which is at Droitwich. I don't know whether you've heard of the bus archive, but it's a national collection of things left over from the bus industry, and they have a massive building which has just been newly filled with a most sophisticated system for keeping things in properly maintained conditions and all the rest of it. But anyway, from our point of view, what they have there now is not just the MCW drawings, which nobody much has looked at, but 150 Leyland Olympic HR40 drawings. In other words, everything about the construction of the Olympic body and chassis, because it was a monocoque vehicle, so it was all drawn up in the MCW works. We have access to 150 drawings which tell the whole story, absolutely everything about that vehicle. So from the vents on the top of outside the door, little carbuncle thing that still exists actually above the entrance, through to the extrusion shapes and sizes, the numbers of different bolts and screws and what their sizes should be and all the rest of it. Now, going down the shop to buy them might not be quite so simple, but at least we know what they look like. So that's an amazing find, really. And all thanks to the bus archive. What they have said is they've given us a USB stick. It's all so easy nowadays, isn't it? All done in a little thing like this that you walk about with scans of all 150 of those drawings on there at a basic quality. And they're working with the Worcestershire County Council Records Department, who's their local people, who have a scanner the size of this room, as far as I can see, who are, hello, take a seat, John, make yourself comfortable, who will fix a copy of any of these drawings that we want to use. So from Andrew Crockett's point of view in Lothalman, that's a fantastic piece of news, because it means we know what everything looks like and we know what we're trying to build. So that's a bit of a win, isn't it, really? And thanks to the bus archive, I think it shows you what the bus archive is about. If anyone was wondering what it's for this purpose and things like it, which is allowing us to work out what we need to do. So anyway, so that's 708 really. It will leave quite soon, and then you'll be watching it from a distance. But of course, Lothalmond is a public museum, and so it will be possible for people to go and look every so often at open days and so on at what's going on. And we will be telling the story very regularly throughout its throughout its conservation project. So that's the Olympic. Yes, Richard?
Would it be, or what does everybody think, as it's going so far into what's name, to make me like a 7'60" whatever sheet banner with the Just Giving or whatever on it that we tie by it, because then everybody can actually see what it is, and then we can tie that on it when it's in the bus museum up there.
You mean something that you will tell people what it is?
Yeah, and a Just Giving page or whatever you technical people do. But
Right. Well, that's a brilliant idea, isn't it? And thank you very much. And as you're the chap who's going to be running down the M1 after it's fallen off and it's blowing away, you're the person to come up with that suggestion. But that's a brilliant idea. Thank you very much. And yeah, that's the kind of thing, really. And who knows, we might get some national coverage for that because it is quite an event. And, you know, don't underestimate, the Olympic is a well-known issue. Lots and lots of people in our world, I mean, not the national world, but the world of bus enthusiasts, they know about it and they are waiting for news about it. And actually, we've had a pretty low profile with it while we've been working out what to do and whether to do it and all that. But that's all past now. We're getting on with it. So that's the Olympic. Now, when it goes, it will create a space at New Chesel Works, which will be very useful because anyone who's been to visit our sites, and some of you have done quite recently, will know that they are absolutely in like this tight, aren't they? And in fact, we've made it really, really tight down the right-hand side, haven't we? I managed to get my hand in between two buses, but only couldn't get me. Anyway, but then that wouldn't be difficult, would it? But we have actually nearly got another building. We would have got the next building, we would have had occupation of it had the farmer who is going to rent it to us kept to the timetable which he set himself. But it slipped a bit, and we have a building, I've told you about this before, but it's really coming in very shortly now. It's near St Marybourne, a place called Wyke Farm, between Andover and Whitchurch, so quite to the north of where we are. It is a single deck only facility, but it does provide about 8 extra spaces, and on that basis we are able to offer some more spaces for rent on our estate, and spaces for rent are good news, both in terms of extra space for everybody and also a little bit of income for FoKAB, so all handy. The good news is that we've been waiting and we were delayed. We were supposed to be taking occupation from the 1st of April, but we were waiting for the roller shutter door to be newly fitted at the farmer's expense. And I'm pleased to tell you that William Stanningforth rang me on yesterday to say that the roller shutter door is installed and there's now a personnel door to fit, and then we can have the building handed over, and there's another space. Now, let's hope it doesn't catch fire. That's all I can say. But lightning doesn't strike twice in the same place, does it? I don't know. Anyway, it's not the purpose. So that's one development that is very positive in terms of what's going on, and that will mean that some of the what you might call more somnambulant buses, or simply asleep buses and vehicles, will go from home farm to the new facility, and that will give us more room for moving vehicles in home farm. So that's all good stuff, isn't it? Another thing in our parish notice list is 811, yeah? Now, anyone know what 811 is? The bus that never turns up. It didn't come in September, it did appear in May last year, still in its old identity, if you remember. But we fixed that, but it broke down with fuel trouble. Didn't come in September, didn't come in January, but is promised for May the 5th. Now, we've been running it quite hard to give it a bit of a test, and it's been out and about. And of course, what's happened of late is we managed to blow the exhaust manifold. So, but we had another exhaust manifold on an 0600 engine at home farm. The only snag was that although Henry could see the exhaust manifold, he couldn't get it out because it was somehow the engine had got into a crate where the crate and the engine were almost welded together, so it seemed. So there was quite an exercise to get this thing off, but it's off now and it's on the bus, is it not, Richard?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So we're hoping that that will be just fine, and a couple of bolts on it, and Bob's your uncle, yes?
The exhaust is on.
Yes, there you are. Now, there's a slight snag, which is that you know that fuel has been the problem with this bus all the way through, and we finally decided to fill it up with diesel because the fuel problems have been solved, yeah? So I went to Shell Winnell, and when it got to 172 quid, I thought, that's lucky it stopped going now because, you know, we'll be bankrupt otherwise. But anyway, filled up with fuel, lovely, all brilliant, brought it back to New Chesel Works. You were there, I think, Zach, and that was fine, 2 miles. So a week later, I'm staring idly at the bus. I've got Rob is there with me, and we're just looking at it saying, what a lovely bus that is. And suddenly it occurred to me that the fuel tank filler cap was not anymore in the middle of the hole, where it should be. It was very much to the left, or rather to the back of the bus. It was, and I'm not, the telltale, the place where you can see the dial says how full of diesel it is, that also shifted out of sight. It's gone from the little hole, it's down the road slightly. And so it's quite obvious that the tank has moved. And if it goes on like that, the tank will be on the road and the bus will be up here, which eventually, presumably, ends in sadness somewhere. So, so the next job, once the thing is on, is to get it up on the stand and see what on earth's going on underneath there. But something has got a bit motion or something to it. Anyway, so it is the 5th of May. It's quite soon. So it'll be there by hook or by crook, don't you think? Yeah, we'll get.
James, do you remember the days when you were working on vehicles till like 6 o'clock in the morning on the day of running days?
Well, I don't know. We've got older, haven't we? What's going on out there? We've got older now. We don't find that quite so easy. And you know, we used to, our big event, for those of you who haven't been around for so long, used to be in January the 1st, was a lovely day for an event because we had this town to ourselves. But it was nearly always minus something or just horrible, cold, wet, combination of all, and so on. And we moved to May, and of course it's been raining ever since. But yes, the idea of looking at 31st, well, 596. Look at 596. 596, the now red bus 2212, came into this country on the 16th of September. What's the year now? 89, I think, or 88, can't remember. 89, I think. No, 88. Oh, I don't know. But anyway, one of those years. Doesn't matter, does it, actually? I'm getting to the point now where I'm like my granny. I can't go on with a story if I don't know the name of the person I'm telling you about, yeah, and that kind of thing. So not knowing the date is worrying. But anyway, don't worry about it. 16th of September, some year at the end of the 1980s. And we got 596 in the Broadway on the 1st of January of the immediately following year, so 4 months later, even though it didn't have an MOT and it didn't have a tax disc, but it did have a nice red trade plate in the front. You know, I think we're still fiddling with that the night before, certainly. I don't know about 6 o'clock in the morning, but anyway, so hopefully not. With a bit of luck, Steve. You know, I have great faith in my colleagues who are very magical in the way they make things happen. So anyway, so much for 811. If you've been on it, those of you who have, it's amazing. It is really amazing, and it is, you know, it does conjure up a whole era of bus travel in Winchester that's long departed. So, right, now, I think that's it in terms of things going on. There's probably lots of things I haven't mentioned, but if you want to ask about them, by all means do, either now or in the break. But let's now move on to the presentation. So we'll bring Nick Richardson into the room. I apologise for not being Nick, but there you go, kind of everything. So I think the point about running day is this. It's going to be as much as possible similar to last year. And the idea is that visitors get the idea how to navigate the various elements of it. St Catherine's, Busket Yard, Broadway, Eastgate Street, the bus station, the Guildhall. Not necessarily the toilets, unfortunately. The gents and ladies' toilets in the Broadway are currently closed for renovation on an 8-week programme starting on the 10th of March. So on that basis, it should be just open again, but otherwise we'll all be weeing in the lake. No, not the lake, the stream. Yes. So that's right. So in what follows, Nick has marked up to show where there's change. There's a picture of 811. So see that little picture? So in these following slides, if you see a picture of that, you know it's something different. Does that make sense? Right, on we go. It's the normal thing. We're using the Broadway. We are sharing the Broadway, of course, with Stagecoach services, which have got more as time has gone on. We have to negotiate them, but we know how to do that, and that's fine. But we also have all the visiting coaches to worry about, and that's always a difficult thing to organise because we've no idea when they're going to turn up, and they don't know what they're doing, and they've never been before, or if they've been, they'll probably get in the way. So never mind, that's the way it is. Our network is the same, city, country, the feeder services are very much a shadow of what they used to be. There's a feeder from Bristol and a feeder from Fareham, and otherwise people bring their own vehicles, and no doubt they'll come to St Catherine's Park and Ride, and that's where we have a static display, and that's where buses that aren't being used, visiting buses particularly, will be parked out. We have some staff instructions. We've looked at the risks, and the big thing we need to do is sell those programmes. Right, every 15 quid programme we sell is a win, yeah? So, and that's really important. So here we are in the Broadway. Anyone who's got layover, do not take it in the Broadway. That's a very important thing. And there isn't really room in the bus station either. So it's off to St Catherine's if there is. If it's on your work card, those of you who've had them, it'll tell you what to do. But most of the King Alfred buses roll round and don't stop because we've learnt that that doesn't work. And the network is exactly as it's been pretty well everywhere that was served at one stage, including places like Farley, which hasn't been served since the 1950s and is well organised. The King Alfred buses, as normal, go from the north side. So that's the side facing King Alfred. We've got shuttle buses running back and forth to St Catherine's, and this year Phil Blair has come forward and offered to run the bulk of the Park and Ride service. So greatly daring, we've taken him up on it. 4 buses are involved, 2 Hanson Dorset, 2 Southampton City. So it does mean that his 2 Hanson Dorset buses, which is a Bristol FS that we've seen many times before on running day, and the Bristol RE we don't see quite so often, they will both be running, and 2 Southampton double-deckers as well. So if that all works, it'll be a miracle. But anyway, that's good.
James, there'll be shuttles outside those times as well, won't there?
Yeah, so that's the time that Phil Blair's doing it, but we're running it from first till last. So there'll be buses up from there from 8:45 onwards, and the last one off the Broadway is 5:30. So people, and that's bookends our event completely. And we're using the bus station to drive through. That affects mainly the visiting buses, which will come up from St Catherine's, pick up outside the Guildhall, and then drive through the bus station and out. The King Alfred services, as normal, will U-turn in the Broadway and set off in the time-honoured fashion. And of course, there are a Blue Star, probably wall-to-wall Blue Stars, aren't there? Or is it not quite yet? That's coming later, is it? Yeah, not quite yet. And Stagecoach. Toilets, yes. Well, he's erred on the side of they're not going to be open. I think they might be, actually.
The basement of the Brooks, if the Brooks is open.
Yes, I suppose so. None of them particularly convenient, any of these, really. The best ones are in the St Catherine's Park and Ride, really. They will be open, yeah, they're promised.
James, is Chesel Street going to be open?
The toilet is?
No, the road.
Oh, yes. Chesel Street will be open after Easter, effectively. In fact, Easter Monday, I think it will be open. So yes, that's certainly been a bit of a poser one way or another, hasn't it? Yes, just for everybody's benefit, we've got at the moment Chesil Street shut right outside the King Alfred. What would have happened if King Alfred had been running? I don't know. I don't know, because it completely separates the King Alfred depot from the rest of the world. So the Busket Yard Bazaar is back. So last year they were digging hoping I think for another king like they found in Leicester in the ground under the Busket Yard. Well, I don't think they found anything. There wasn't anything very exciting. It was a Marks and Spencer's bag or something from 1952. But it wasn't King Edward I or anything like that. So Busket Yard is now back and with us, and the City Council are letting us have it for free, which is a great benefit. And that is where the stalls will be. And Julian Bowden is running the stalls for us. He's got about a dozen so far, and I think we'll end up with about 14 or 15. So quite a good mix and quite a good place. And the big issue is to get people to go through from the Broadway down the little crack between the Crown and Anchor and the St John's House, which isn't a very inviting sort of place. So we're going to park a bus on the Busket Yard end of it so that people look and see a bus down there and think, oh, there's a bus, must be something happening there. So down to that. So if you get the chance, remind people that there is a bazaar, and do go and visit it, because we want the stall holders to have a good time. There will be 2 refreshment stalls there. One is a burger bar at the very nearest to the bus station end of things, and the other is new for this year, a coffee place in a pony trailer, actually. And both of those will accept the vouchers that we're going to give you so generously, so you can go there. Anyway, we're grateful to Julian, who's put a lot of effort into that, so hopefully that'll be okay. Now, the FoKAB sales is usual place outside Shoal on the opposite side of the Broadway, so that should be okay. On we go. Here's a picture of it, just in case you've never seen the Broadway. Has anyone never seen the Broadway? That's King Alfred's statue. Here's the south side, here's the north side. And this is the crack we were talking about to go through to Busket's Yard. This picture was obviously taken when something was happening in Busket's Yard last summer, but now it's all clear. This is the getting off side, yeah? So it does get muddled up with the stagecoach buses boarding. So if you're driving a King Alfred bus and you're wanting people to get off, do look out for me telling you where to go, but in principle, stop sooner rather than later. Do not get to the end, because we can't cope with you if you stop on the zigzags, because that gums up the U-turn. So if you possibly can, get in before and watch for instructions, because we're trying to juggle I don't know what in those circumstances. Here's the U-turn. For King Alfred drivers, getting round in one is important. This is achieved by getting right into the near side and going right a lot further than you all trust to, so that you turn at the very last minute. I watch stagecoach people getting this all wrong quite often. If you go really, really left-hand side and stay in, you can get round in one, even in 2212, which has the worst right-hand lock of any of our vehicles. So, but you have to be right in the gutter and you have to keep going right to the corner. So much for that. And then north side is where the buses go from. Again, drivers, watch out. The trees are enormous and they stick right out and they'll take the top deck off. There's a right-hand line. The bus stop bay is marked in yellow paint. It's not too faded. And if you're using that to park your offside wheels on the right-hand line, you'll be far enough out, more or less, to avoid any damage. So, right. And then we use Mildmay Arms, which hasn't been a pub for the last 50 years, in Eastgate Street, as a set-down place, basically, so that to avoid buses which are coming back from their trips around, going back to St Catherine's, coming into the Broadway and getting jammed up and everything. And that worked exceptionally well. We've done that now. This is the third year, I think. They just drop off, everyone gets off, and then they go off to St Catherine's. So, but again, the King Alfred services come into the Broadway normal way. Oh, yes, where the sales stand is, but you must know that already. I don't know what that is. Oh, that says where the Transport Bazaar is, doesn't it? you have to spot what the new things are. So there it all is. So the country departures, the non-King Alfred ones start from outside the Broadway, outside the Guildhall, I beg your pardon. The vintage King Alfred buses will go from the north side in amongst the King Alfred buses, not in amongst the foreigners. It's too complicated to do it that way, right? Okay, any questions about any of that?
Yes. So the 22 will start from Eastgate Street, will it?
The 22, exceptionally, starts from the north side of the Broadway because it's a loading service.
But if you're coming in from a country route, you can pick up at Marlon House.
Not encouraged. So we won't send people round to there for that purpose because we don't want buses waiting there. So anyone wants to go to St Catherine's, they go on a 22, basically. So, on to services. So what's different this year? Well, PD2 is going to be going to Fisher's Pond, Colden Common. The others are straightforward. There is, once again, Clifton Terrace is no longer a bus route, and so incoming buses coming down Romsey Road follow the normal bus route for buses. So that's Clifton Terrace. It's pretty obvious. The one thing as drivers you need to watch out for is that as you come down the Romsey Road to the Westgate, the left turn is quite tight and quite stiff. So if you're driving a Panther or something, then you've got to have your wits about you to stop yourself going over the pavement. But otherwise, it's straightforward enough. And of course, it brings us into the station. So we're picking up people. And indeed, at the end of the day, dropping them off, going to their trains. So it makes sense, doesn't it? Out in the country, we've got the usual sorts of places, Sparsholt, Crawley, Sutton, Scotney, which this year is going to be the Val. A nice straight road for the Val so that it doesn't have to steer to the left or right at all. And we're going into, well, thereby hangs a tale, but we won't go into it. And we're going into Worthy Down, but only as far as the married quarters. Do not think you're getting a tour of the camp, because whereas that used to happen, and the number 11 used to go straight through the camp, didn't it, Peter?
James, I'll make sure the map's right for
Thank you.
that. And as you said on the previous one slide now, the maps are all online with the King Alfred routes.
Very good point. Thank you for that. So if you want to look in the members area, then if you haven't got access to the members area, how do you get it nowadays?
You can register for it, so you go onto the website.
Anyway, so if you haven't got access, then you can get access. And once you've got access, you can look at all the route maps online. And Peith would have corrected them, so they're the very latest thing in mapology. So this isn't quite right, what he's put on here, by the way. So don't take any notice of this. We're actually turning around much further up here. We don't have to go all down there, and we mustn't go down there.
No, you go to the end of where the built-up bits are, which is...
I think it's here, isn't it? It's very obvious when you get there. It's very obvious when you're there.
And it's just before the gatehouse as well.
Yeah. Right. The city services are what they are. But if you're doing a number 18 going to Winnall, that does not come into the Broadway going to Winnall. It goes to the Mildmay Arms, and we expect people to stay on the bus and go on round. I'm sure they won't, but and if somebody desperately wants to go to Winnall, then they exceptionally can go round to Eastgate Street and get on the bus there. If that's really what rocks their boat, then they can do that. Okay. And then the open top services. A little snag we've got is that we decided that we had to do something about the seats in 590, our own open topper, and our wonderful Paul Toomer is busy doing the work, but he hasn't actually finished it. So 590 won't be there on the 4th of May. But look, fortunately, there are lots of visiting open toppers this year, so there are more than enough to fill the gap. So the 21 will run every 20 minutes from the Broadway to the Science Centre, along the top, over Spitfire Bridge, and it's very, very popular. It's always full. Even when it's raining, it's still really popular. And there will be a variety of vehicles. He's listed them on the screen there. One of them, though, is very venerable. It's a 1934 or 5 Leyland Titan TD4 from Eastbourne. So that will be quite an experience, I think, for a ride on that. Okay. Mervyns are going to be providing a new vehicle, although they've said, and the programme will tell you, that they put the same Bedford that broke down in the Broadway last year and had to be removed on the back of a truck. But actually, we hope that their AEC Regal that they've been working on for yonks will be ready and it'll be its first public passenger carrying outing. So that will be very exciting. If it doesn't come, you'll know that it's got 811 disease. So that's that. Park and ride we've talked about. The Stockbridge is a combination of a Volvo B10M belonging to James Woodcock, one of our members, or a Royal Blue Bristol LS. Very different coach stuff. And then our own Lion and the Dennis, and possibly the Victor, though also possibly the Victor will just be there for show, hopefully. But we hope it will be there for show because it's a very showy thing. And the rest of the network, there's the 93 is the service that goes to Twyford Waterworks. And if anybody is interested in going to Twyford Waterworks, if they take a programme with them and waive it, they will get in to the waterworks for free. And the 93 route is a most peculiar operation because in order to satisfy the operators, it runs around a clockwise loop, but the departure from Winchester assumes it's anti-clockwise. So it sets off from St Catherine's, comes up to the Guildhall, runs through the bus station, up the one-way system, and then back down again, and back out past St Catherine's and up over Morstead, Hazley down Morstead Waterworks, back through St Cross. And that's a constant service, regular frequency, well used, and all visiting buses. So that's...
And anybody who hasn't been to the waterworks, I recommend it.
Yes, but not on 5th of May, because you've probably got something to do if you're here. But yes, you're right. It is very recommendable. We're also running to and from Alresford, and we have the famous 145. Tim is in the room here. It's 60 years in preservation, so we'll be getting to 61 by the time. Well, not quite yet, but, going that way, isn't it? So what happens, clock ticks, except that one doesn't. Says 10 to 9, has done since we arrived. There are two routes to Alresford, the slow road, the old road, the proper 14 route, and the fast one over the top via Mornhill. And they meet in Alresford and go together to Bishop's Sutton, where there's a nice big lay-by where everyone can coalesce, which is not an excuse for going into the bushes. So, not at all. So, if anybody is unfamiliar with that, it's through Alresford and heading for Alton, and there's a nice roundabout at the end of all that to turn around on, so it's all very straightforward. Lay-by on the side. Try and discourage people from getting run over.
I assume we're not encouraging people or not advertising connections with the trains.
No, I think there's something happening on the railway that isn't suitable to connect with.
But it's always been a nightmare trying to...
Yeah, no, we frankly, we ignore the trains. We love them, but we ignore them in this case. Right, so I don't think you're terribly interested in that, unless you are, of course. If you are, then it's all in the programme. The programme is at the printers at the moment, should be with us in the next week. Other services are the usual combination. I'm not going to go through them in great detail because...
Go back one, James.
Oh.
I know we're not, everybody. Your usual 47Bs and 66 running combined, I take it.
Yes, yes.
And the 48 going around the Colden Common Loop, not the roundabout?
Yes.
Yes, that's fine.
Yes, you're right. So, anyway, there we are. And then we go to Cheriton. We're going to Sutton Scotney as a 68 with a very modern vehicle for that. The most modern vehicle in the group is an O2 plate, whatever. We're going to Farley, and that's that. Okay, quickly on then, St Catherine's Park and Ride. You're all going to sleep. We need to have a break. So in terms of visiting vehicles, it's always the fact that we just want everyone to go to St Catherine's. If any vehicle arrives, any sort of doubt about what they're doing, what's happening, send them to St Catherine's, because that's what we're trying to do. If you don't know where St Catherine's is, it's there. A lot of trees there now, aren't there? Right, the vehicle display is at the top end of the far end of the car park, and the departure place is away from the National Express stand. So we use the space next to the sort of this side of the park and ride. So that's the toilet block, and we use this space here as a departure bay in between, which we'll get some cones from our friends at the city, and we will block that off. That's the coach stop. That's where the toilets are. That's the way in case anyone's in doubt, up to the roundabout and then down into the site. It's not the way the park and ride buses go, but we are actually doing something different. But we go out through the bottom where general motorists will park. And the last thing is that we've got the Emmaus Cafe, which is here, right next to here, is going to be open and selling light refreshments and everything else. They will also be accepting our vouchers. So, and they're going to a lot of trouble to be there and present. So if you're in St Catherine's and you want a cup of tea or a bun or something, go down there. They're ready for us. So please take advantage of it. Right, staff instructions. So everybody should get their own schedule, the instructions and route maps and everything else, and you'll get a programme. And there'll be a vehicle schedule in the cab for each bus, and a poor old soul will be in the Broadway. I don't know who that is. And there will be some marshals around and people. We are not well off for marshals. Those that we have got are very important. Now, if you break down, the phone you ring will be mine in my pocket, right? So, and I quite often am too old, I don't hear it and all the rest of it. So if you think you haven't had an answer, ring it again, because sometimes it doesn't ring, just to be helpful.
And send a text as well.
And send a text, well, you can do that. Oh, that's rather fun, look at that.
Text is better than a voicemail.
Yeah, don't leave a voicemail, because I never listen to them. That's true. Right, okay, here's Blakey. If you need uniform, now Keith has brought a whole lot of stuff here, so if there are things you haven't got, you could take advantage of it. You need to have your driving licence if you're driving, and this is a bit random, isn't it? In City Road, we always use the middle bus stop outbound, and if you're a driver, we want you to fill in the logbook every time you do a trip, which often doesn't happen, and we do say, please let the real buses go first. So if you get to a place, let them go and take the people. We
have had standoffs in the past where the real ones say, no, you go, because you can take the free passage.
Yeah, yes, quite so. But anyway, that's the way it is. And this message about the I'm sorry to go on about it, but do not block the U-turn. Right? We've got much better at this in recent years. Do not block the U-turn. Doesn't matter what your situation is, do not stop in the U-turn, because it just ruins it for everybody then. Because we then get into shunting and all kinds of things. Not good news. And so if you're early, no professional busman should be early, and the timetables are organised to try to be sensible. But if you get early coming into the Broadway, do not arrive early, right? Or I shall send you out again. Around the town for a second time or something. Just wait. City Road is the place. There's a big lay-by there. Just wait. And then when it's time to come, off you come. And then you won't get in the way. If you're winding up, this is absolutely every detail in this presentation. If you're winding up the destinations, the King Alfred buses and this is where it really does get into the detail, because the King Alfred buses have two ways of displaying the return to base. If you're in the town, in the city rather, it's the Broadway, right? So you use the big letters Broadway. And if you're outside the city, in general principles, but not entirely reliably, you use the words Winchester, right? Except if you're coming from Oslebury, where for some strange reason there's a particular blind that says Broadway, Moorstead, 15. Don't ask me why. But in general principles, that's the thing. So have a look and see where those places are on the blind, and then wind them up. So that's important. A few other things to look out for. Again, this is very driver orientated. But the Stockbridge Road Arch is perfectly navigable with a double-decker bus, including 811. But coming out of town, the bus needs to be on the right-hand side because the arch is not quite in the middle. Don't go to Clifton Terrace because it's one way in the opposite direction. Mind the trees, we've already talked about that. We can assist you if you break down, but first of all, you must tell us. Now, conductors. Now, those of you who are conducting. So we'd like you to wear something that looks reasonably like you're a bus conductor. Frankly, whatever it is, either something KA or something else, but don't look like, don't come back in some terrible old T-shirt and all ripped and all the rest of it. And when you sign in, you will sign in to the Silver Star Leyland Atlantine, which will be in Busquets Yard. That is the conductor base. So, and we all know where Busquets Yard is. It's up the crack between St John's House and the Crown and Anchor. And the Silver Star bus is painted
silver.
Thank you very much. So it's relatively straightforward. And at that point, you will be given everything that you require. Unless you have previously admitted to having equipment, you will get the full Monty of a ticket machine in its box with a mounting plate for your ticket machine to sling over your shoulder, a cash bag for you not to collect money, but you can keep your timetable in it. It looks more realistic to have across leather bags. Ticket rolls, because if you are busy, you will use up a whole roll and need to put some more in, and all of that. And then, as a conductor, we want you, please, to issue a ticket to each customer in each direction. So if you're going to a place which is on a circular, like Stanmore, you go to Stanmore and then you go around the bus again, which doubles all the numbers. It's quite useful way of making sure that we turn up an impressive figure at the end of it all. But also, actually, it's part of the fun. Going around the bus, giving a ticket out. People not familiar with this, don't know what the ticket machines are, never been on a bus at all, but never been on a bus with a conductor. So you can ham it up, folks, yeah? You can, not actually biff people with your ticket machine as you walk down the corridor, that kind of thing, but you can have a bit of fun with it. So that's important. And at the end of each trip, we want you to fill in the waybill so that we can work out what's busy and what isn't. Because when we come and you wouldn't think that we would look at it afterwards, would you? But we do actually analyse the numbers. So we got this one does no good, nobody goes on this. This one's really busy, so we'll do some more of those.
It's also because we send them to the Charity Commission.
And then exactly the total number goes to the Charity Commission because it's part of our charitable mission to get people on our buses. So so we don't cook these books, but we do make sure they're nicely warmed through. So it's very important. But I mean, if you think that on a running day we can have up to 20,000 passenger journeys, or have done in the past, then you'll see that that's a lot of tickets coming out of machines. So that's all important. Now, some other basics about conducting. Paul won't need me to tell you this, but always start at the beginning of your bus, right? So, and work your way up the deck, okay? So if you're on a back loader, you start at the beginning with the people immediately either side and you work your way towards the front of the saloon. And then you go upstairs and do the same, okay? Don't go up one side and down the other. Don't start at the front or anything like that. Start at the back so that anyone getting off then passes you as they get off. So you're always in control. So that's a very simple, straightforward thing. And the ticket rolls are rather flimsy. So you have to treat them with care. And pull them off gently and gently does it, as my old mother would say. Right.
But if what happens with these current ticket rolls, because they're a bit thin, I haven't quite diagnosed it completely, but it seems that they catch on the teeth at the point where they turn off and therefore jam. So if a ticket doesn't come out, do not keep winding, because it won't solve the problem. Right, just stop. and count the numbers on your fingers or something.
Yes, put them on, write them in somewhere. Write them on the back of the waybill.
Yeah. Right. Because if you just keep winding, it just jams tickets inside.
And
the Serite machine, for all its wonderful design, has one amazing fault: is that the ticket path is next to inaccessible inside. So when the ticket jams, it's a real pig to get all the mess out.
Thank you. So we have 4 spare machines, and they will be available in the Silver Star Atlantean. If you get a jam up, bring your machine in and swap it for another one.
Sorry. And Silver Star will be there all day as a restroom.
Yes, it's not doing anything else. Yes.
I'm meant to be bringing 42 in from home farm. Will the conductor's kit be on it before we leave home farm?
Probably. I think sensibly. We did think about doing it today, and then we thought it was too much like hard work, so we didn't. Probably. Probably is the answer. So be confident. Yes, Paul.
James, as the newbie, as it were, I will come to St Catherine's in my car and leave it there.
Yes.
Come into town, pick up my ticket machine and stuff, and then meet my driver.
Yes, you've got it in one. And at the end of the day, you reverse all that, basically. Now, on we go. So we're on the bus, again, bell signals are part of the theatre. So I remember being on an Irish bus where the conductor would stand right next to the driver and then ring the bell, to my astonishment. And he often wouldn't ring it to stop the bus until it was more or less at the stop, and then he'd go ting like this. The thing would stop like this. Because all he had to do was say, would you stop at the next stop, please? But no. Anyway, so double-deckers definitely always, 1 to go, 2 to stop.
Wrong.
That's the wrong way around, isn't it? With friends like me, you don't need enemies, do you?
1 to stop, 2 to go.
There you are, just testing you. Yeah, and most of you just took it, No, you're quite right. Now, what did you say? 1 to go? No.
1 to stop.
2 to start.
2 to start, 3 full, multiple successive rings, emergency stop.
Yeah. And so that's what it is. Okay. And do stop at all the stops. If there's somebody there, wait, pick them up. Or at least explain that you're a bus that's 50 years old or something. You can usually have a bit of fun with them. So that's a good thing. Now, here's a difficult one. Unaccompanied kids under 16, we can't carry them. So they have to go on the real bus. We just can't have them. So that's for various reasons, one of which is the modern reasons, the thought that we might put our hand up their backside or something. But also the destruction derby that they sometimes bring in their wake. So we've never forgotten the Highcliffe kids in 1965 with 275 who destroyed the upper deck. If you get dogs, by all means, unless you think they're going to cause a problem or eat another dog that's already on the bus, but not on the seats is obvious, isn't it? And when you get to the outside terminus, say we've arrived at such and such a place, right? Because it may not be obvious to them. All our estates look the same in Winchester: red brick, sky above, green grass round. So do say we've arrived in Week Estate. Wow, yeah, or whatever it might be. And remember, you cannot take any donations. Do not accept money from people. They will try and give you money. Say no. When you get to Broadway, go across to the stand, and they will happily take you.
On the subject of photos, of course, people will wander across the road and that, so you have to be careful and make sure they're all back on, I suppose. Although we're not a coach, so in theory you're quite entitled to leave them behind. But there will be time for photos, even if you don't think there is, because unless the traffic is really bad, the route timings are slack enough to allow a couple of minutes for photos.
Yeah, but do try and gather them all up afterwards, because they do wander off and get round the back, and that can be trouble. Right. We have a video, I don't know where it is, about the safety. We've gone to a lot of trouble to create this thing, and in fact I think I've got it here tonight, haven't I? Yeah. So we will show you that. It's not embedded in that like it should be, but it's we've also got a a PowerPoint around the set-right ticket machine, but I'm not going to show that tonight because we've got no voice for it. So, and it was, it owes all its origination to you. And actually it's really good.
I hacked Keith Edmondson's and Malcolm Rennie's original text.
There you go.
Things, but yeah.
Anyway, so that's that. And if you are a marshal, they are a rare breed, then they need to be yellow jacketed. Otherwise, people not yellow jacketed, please. Do not wear yellow jackets. There were no yellow jackets in 1973, unless you're doing reversing manoeuvres, really. Otherwise...
We've usually had the programme sellers...
Yeah, they're right. Yeah,
official, right?
yeah. But if you're driving or conducting, please stay old-fashioned, as it were. The whole job we have in the Broadway is keeping the thing flowing. And if that means buses going around again, that's very irksome for drivers if you've got heavy steering and all the rest of it, but they've just got to go around again because once it blocks up in the big time, and that's very, very worried. Now, and do not let any bus reverse without someone at the rear offside. And you have to look in the mirror and see if you can see the driver's eyes.
James, outside the vehicle as well.
You have to be outside the vehicle. Yes.
There were some last year that were inside.
I see. Well, you can't see the driver's whites of his eyes from there very easily. So yeah, you need to be outside, but not in the left and not somewhere up the bank or 250 yards behind or anything like that. Right behind the bus, and then where the driver can see you. And then that's really helpful. And the driver then has to take notice, of course. If you do that, you want the bus to stop, don't you? So, there you are. Okay, so much for that. Risks. Well, it is a hugely risky thing we're doing. We are expecting people to clamber onto buses with steps and stairs and all kinds of things. The scope for people to fall is immense, and for people to get into places they shouldn't be. So we've all got really just to be very, very careful. Now, we've managed for years and years and years like this, but we're only as good as the last event. So that's really, really important, just to be careful and measured about what we do. So don't run about. Now, I look around the room, none of you are going to be running around, so that's all right. But we just do have to be really, really careful. So that we have had a risk assessment, and I think you've all been sent it. And I'm sure you've all read it with great gusto. But actually, it is worth a quick look through. And to be fair to Nick, he's done a good job with it. You know, it's all about all the various things. It's obvious enough, except when you don't do it. And that's the thing. So, you know, it's really about just giving everybody, you know, why are we here? We're here to have a nice time tonight. We're not here to have a nice time on the 5th of May. It's as much about enjoying it for you as it is for the others. We want everyone to go home happy, satisfied, healthy, safe. That's the only purpose, really, and that's what we've got to do. Finally, I hope, we're getting to programmes. Gosh, that's an old picture. It's been around since 2013. Amazing, isn't it? So the full programme is 15 quid, and all being well, the sort of smaller one for people who can't afford the 15 quid one, different market really, will be 6 quid. So, but the 15 quid one will come out very shortly, and you will all get one of those.
Also St Catherine's, presumably.
Also St Catherine's, yes. Yes, absolutely. Yes, yes, very much so. And then there are in addition to the cleaning day, which we have mentioned, there are 2 meals organised. Thanks to Catherine for organising them. There are, that's been sent out to all members. Obviously, Paul, you haven't got one of these because you haven't got one, and you may or may not be interested anyway. But oh, you've had one. Oh, there you are. So we're at the Bishop on the Bridge in Winchester on the night of the 4th, quite early on, I think, and 6:30, 6:30, yeah, 4/7, yeah, and on the Monday, the Golden Lion up the hill. So do feel free to join up and come along. And Catherine has got menus for you to fill in, and if you have any particular strange requirements or something that's not on the menu, go and see Catherine, because she has the ear of their cooks. So if you want a vegetarian something or other, or something different from what's there, that's not a problem, and do feel free. Interesting to see that the prices haven't half gone up since last year. It's very, very striking. But anyway, they're there, so please take use of that. So, yep.
The 5th then?
Yep.
Is it possible to take a bus there? Because we don't want to go back to Alsford and then come out again.
I don't think it's possible to take a bus to the pub necessarily, although...
We've had 42 parked there on various...
Oh, well, it might be then. Yeah, we could check with that. There's nobody much else there, I imagine, on that evening. I guess there won't be many other people there, frankly, on a Monday night. So it's possible, I suppose.
Take it down the slope at the back, right? But
yeah, round the back of the pub, yeah.
I mean, in Andy's day, yes, we could have 42 there for as long as we wanted, yeah.
Yes, that was the previous mine host. But we could, I mean, the alternative is to leave it somewhere where it would be relatively safe. The bus station will be the place, because that's still attended at that time. So that wouldn't be a problem if necessary. Just take you up and down the hill. Okay, so really it's a question of, is there any questions? David? It isn't on this list, but it is on the list, and it is in the programme. This actually was put together some weeks ago, so some things that have happened subsequently haven't arrived at. No, we're very pleased and happy to have that. In fact, the visiting vehicles were quite lastminute.com one way or another, so we were kind of adding things in right the way to the very last minute of the programme going to print on Thursday. So is there anything else that anyone occurs to you, or have you become brain dead? Tim?
Somebody scheduled to go to Alsford and get to Bristol.
Well, we're going to work out how we're going to get to Bristol. Okay. I'm hoping we might devise a way of, assuming the Bristol's functioning, that is, we might devise a way of bringing it down in advance by swapping it with something else, I was thinking. So we'll need to think about it, because going to Medstead for it's actually a bit of a problem from our point of view. Yeah. So it would be better if it was in one of our places. So that's a good point, yeah. There are one or two loose ends about some of these vehicles, I might say. It may be, it may not be quite the same when we get to the finish. And in fact, I should say about all of your duties that people come and go out of the roster, mostly go at this stage. And so we will be rewriting the rosters undoubtedly before we get to the actual event, because people suddenly can't come because they've dropped dead, or they've remembered an appointment the other side of the world, or just woken up thinking they don't want to come. So there will be a bit of fiddling around. So that and the buses both are slightly vague until right up to the day, really. James?
Just to add from my perspective, conductors-wise...
He's the conductor coordinator, for those of you who have never met him before. So, James?
Just to advise that I will be going out on the road myself at about 11 o'clock, so if everybody can be signed in by 11 o'clock, that'd be most grateful. I have noticed on the roster a couple of issues where conductors are due to sign on at the Broadway and 10 minutes later take a bus out of St Catherine's. So I'm going to speak to our scheduler to get that adjusted, so as James said, there will likely be some tweaks in the roster to that regard as well. But obviously look forward to working with all the new folk and all the regulars from many years gone by.
Yes, absolutely. So do remember, we're here to have fun. It's for fun. It is. Sometimes I don't feel it's fun until about a week afterwards. But it is. Remember, we're doing this for entertainment, our own. very important, and everybody else's. And in case you were wondering, people love it. Loads and loads of people come and they love it. And you know, it's a joy. I mean, one of the byproducts of the fact that you'll find that the address that people get their bookings from is my address. So I've been opening all the stuff that people send in, and the positivity is the word, isn't it, of the feedback, and the donations that people send is amazing. So you know, people love us. So we just got to remember to love them back. So thank you very much indeed, and thank you to Nick for putting all that together. It would have gone much better had he been here to do it, but he isn't, so I apologise on his behalf. And thank you.